Her name was Margaret Hayes, and at 58, she thought she'd seen everything life had to offer. CEO of a mid-sized manufacturing company, divorced for 12 years. 2 grown children living their own lives across the country. Margaret had built her success carefully, brick by brick, but somewhere along the way, she'd forgotten what it felt like to be surprised by kindness. That Tuesday afternoon, the rain came down like a curtain of silver threads. Margaret's white Mercedes had sputtered and died on Maple Street, right in front of a modest house with peeling paint and a small garage. Steam rose from under the hood in angry clouds. She sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, feeling foolish. Her phone was dead. Of course it was, and the nearest auto shop was miles away. Through the rain-streaked window, she saw movement. A boy, perhaps 11 or 12, with sandy brown hair and a worn gray t-shirt emerged from the garage. He didn't run from the rain. He simply walked through it, purposeful, carrying a small toolbox that looked too heavy for his thin arms. Margaret stepped out, immediately regretting her light blue suit and heels. The rain was cold, insistent. "Ma'am." The boy's voice was polite, careful. "Your car broke down?" "I'm afraid so," Margaret said, trying to maintain some dignity while getting thoroughly soaked. "I don't suppose you know anything about cars?" The boy smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile that reminded Margaret of her own son at that age. "My dad's a mechanic. He's at work, but I've been helping him since I could hold a wrench. I'm Daniel. Daniel Foster." Margaret Hayes. She extended her hand, and Daniel shook it seriously, like a little gentleman. Without another word, Daniel opened the hood. Margaret watched, bemused, as this child, and he was just a child, began examining her engine with surprising competence. His small hands moved carefully between components, checking connections, testing wires. "When did it start making noise?" Daniel asked, rainwater running down his face. "About 2 miles back. A knocking sound, then it just gave up?" Daniel nodded, absorbed in his work. Margaret found herself standing there in the rain, holding her briefcase like a shield, watching this boy work with a focus she rarely saw in adults. 5 minutes passed. 10. "I think it's your alternator belt," Daniel finally said. It snapped. "That's why your battery died, too." He looked up at her, squinting through the rain. "I have a belt in the garage that might fit. Dad keeps extras. Can I try?" Margaret felt something catch in her throat. "You do that? For a stranger?" Daniel looked puzzled by the question. "You need help, don't you?" Such simple logic, such pure kindness. "Yes," Margaret said quietly. "Yes, I do." Daniel disappeared into the garage and returned with a belt and more tools. Margaret watched as he worked. This thin boy in the rain, not complaining, not asking for anything. She noticed his shirt had holes in it. His sneakers were held together with duct tape. 20 minutes later, Daniel straightened up. "Try starting it now." Margaret slid into the driver's seat, her suit ruined, her carefully styled hair plastered to her head. She turned the key. The engine roared to life, strong and steady. When she stepped out, Daniel was gathering his tools, his small face proud but trying not to show it. "How much do I owe you?" Margaret asked, reaching for her purse. Daniel shook his head firmly. "Nothing, ma'am. I was just helping." "Daniel!" Margaret's voice cracked slightly. "You spent half an hour in the rain fixing a stranger's car. Please, let me—" "My dad says we help people because it's right, not because we get paid." Daniel's voice was matter-of-fact, repeating words clearly learned at home. "He says kindness is free and everyone deserves it." Margaret stood there, this powerful CEO who negotiated million-dollar deals, and she felt tears mixing with the rain on her face. How long had it been since someone had shown her kindness without wanting something in return? She knelt down, not caring about her skirt in the puddles, bringing herself to Daniel's eye level. "Your father sounds like a wise man," she said softly. "What's his name?" "Robert Foster. He works at Jensen's auto shop on 4th Street. Margaret nodded, committing it to memory. "And you, Daniel Foster, are a remarkable young man." Daniel blushed, looking at his soaked sneakers. The next morning, Robert Foster arrived at Jensen's auto shop to find his boss waiting with an odd expression. "Rob," Someone bought the shop. The new owner wants to see you in the office. Robert's heart sank. New owner meant changes, probably layoffs. He had worked here for 15 years, ever since his wife, Sarah, died. It wasn't much, but it kept food on the table and a roof over Daniel's head. He knocked on the office door. "Come in." Robert froze. Sitting behind the desk was the woman from yesterday, the one Daniel had described helping, the lady with the fancy car and the nice suit. "Mr. Foster," Margaret said, standing. "Please sit down." "Ma'am, if Daniel did something wrong—" "Wrong!" Margaret's eyes widened. "Mr. Foster, your son did something extraordinarily right." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "Yesterday I was stranded, frustrated, running late for a meeting I thought was important. Your son fixed my car in the pouring rain and refused payment. He told me you taught him that kindness is free." Robert nodded slowly, unsure where this was going. "I spent last night thinking about that," Margaret continued, "about how rare that kind of genuine goodness has become, about how I've spent years in boardrooms, negotiating, strategizing, protecting my interests. When was the last time I simply helped someone because it was right?" She opened a folder on the desk. "This shop was for sale. I bought it this morning. But I don't want to run it. I don't know the first thing about cars. I want you to run it, Mr. Foster, as the manager with a partnership stake. I want to expand it, treat employees fairly, serve the community, and I want to establish a scholarship fund in your late wife's name for children who show exceptional character." Robert couldn't speak. The words seemed impossible, dreamlike. "Your son fixed my car," Margaret said, her voice warm. "But really, he fixed something in me. He reminded me what matters. Let me do this, not as charity, but as thanks for raising a child who still believes in kindness. That was 3 years ago. Today, Foster and Hayes Automotive employs 23 people, pays fair wages, and has put 6 deserving kids through college. Daniel, now 15, works there on weekends, still fixing cars with his father, still treating every customer with the same genuine kindness he showed that rainy Tuesday. And Margaret, she visits every Wednesday, rolling up her sleeves and learning the business from the ground up. She's learned to change oil, rotate tires, and diagnose engine troubles. But more importantly, she's learned something else, that sometimes the greatest repairs happen not under the hood, but within the human heart. Life has a way of teaching us, if we're willing to learn. Sometimes it takes a child's simple act of kindness offered freely in the rain to remind us what really matters. Not the meetings, not the strategies, not the carefully built walls of success, but the moments when we choose to help someone simply because they need help. That's the lesson Daniel Foster taught Margaret Hayes on that rainy afternoon. And it's a lesson she carries with her still, every single day. The end, sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest changes. Sometimes a child's wisdom is exactly what a grown-up heart needs to hear.